We are in Genesis chapter 43 tonight.
Estamos en Génesis capítulo 43.
Before we start with chapter 43, I need to make a correction about last week's class. At the end of the class, I said that Jacob relented and sent Benjamin.
Antes de comenzar con el capítulo 43, necesito hacer una corrección sobre la clase de la semana pasada. Al final de la clase dije que Jacob cedió y envió a Benjamín.
He did not do so at the end of chapter 42. We will see tonight that he does, but I was a little ahead of things and saying it at the end of chapter 42. I want to clear that up.
Él no lo hizo al final del capítulo 42. Veremos esta noche que lo hace, pero me adelanté un poco al decirlo al final del capítulo 42. Quiero aclarar eso.
Chapter 43.
Génesis capítulo 43.
Judah convinces Jacob to send Benjamin to Egypt. Joseph's lunch with his brothers.
Judá convence a Jacob de enviar a Benjamín a Egipto, el almuerzo de José con sus hermanos.
Genesis 43, verse 1.
Génesis capítulo 43, verso 1.
And the famine was sore in the land.
El hambre era grande en la tierra.
The famine is continuing and is severe. Remember, it is to last 7 years.
La hambruna continúa y es clave. Recuerde, tiene una duración de 7 años.
Verses 2 through 14.
Verso 2 al 14 del capítulo 43.
And we're just going to break it up.
Okay.
Jacob tells his sons to go buy more food. Verse 2.
Jacob les dice a sus hijos que vayan a comprar más comida. Verso 2.
And it came to pass when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food.
Y aconteció que cuando acabaron de comer el trigo que trajeron de Egipto, les dijo su padre, volved y comprad para nosotros un poco de alimento.
Of course, the problem is that he has refused to send Benjamin, and without Benjamin there is no use in their going.
Por supuesto, el problema es que se han negado a enviar a Benjamín y sin Benjamín no sirve nada que vayan.
Reuben had tried to persuade their father of the need to take Benjamin, Genesis chapter 42, verse 37.
Rubén había tratado de persuadir a su padre de la necesidad de llevarse a Benjamín, Génesis capítulo 42, verso 37.
And Reuben spake unto his father, saying, Slay my 2 sons. If I bring him not to thee, deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again.
What verse are you reading, brother?
42:37. Capítulo 42.
Okay.
Versículo.
Capítulo 42, versículo 37. Y Rubén habló a su padre diciendo, harás morir a mis 2 hijos y no te lo devuelvo, entrégamelo en mi mano, que yo lo devolveré a ti.
However, Jacob refused to send him, verse 38.
Sin embargo, Jacob se negó a enviarlo, Génesis capítulo 42, verso 38.
And he said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in which ye go, then shall ye bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave.
Y él dijo, no descenderá mi hijo con vosotros, pues su hermano ha muerto, y él solo ha quedado, y si le aconteciere algún desastre en el camino por donde vais, haréis descender mis canas con dolor al Sión.
Judah tries to persuade Jacob, Genesis 43, verses 3 through 10.
Judá intenta persuadir a Jacob, Génesis capítulo 43, verso 3 al 10.
And Judah spake unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou but if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down, for the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Israel said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye had yet a brother? And they said, excuse me, and they said, The man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel his father, Send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we had returned the second time.
Capítulo 43, verso 3 al 10. Respondió Judá diciendo, aquel varón nos protestó con ánimo resuelto, diciendo, no veréis mi rostro si no traéis a vuestro hermano con vosotros. Si enviares a nuestro hermano con nosotros, descenderemos y te compraremos alimento. Pero si no le enviares, no descenderemos, porque aquel varón nos dijo, no veréis mi rostro si no traéis a vuestro hermano con vosotros. Dijo entonces Israel, ¿por qué me hicisteis tanto mal, declarando al varón que tenías otro hermano? Y ellos respondieron, aquel varón nos preguntó expresamente por nosotros y por nuestra familia, diciendo, ¿vive aún vuestro padre? ¿Tenéis otro hermano? Y le declaramos conforme a estas palabras, ¿acaso podíamos saber que él nos diría, haced venir a vuestro hermano? Entonces Judá dijo a Israel su padre, envía al joven conmigo y nos levantaremos e iremos, a fin de que vivamos y no muramos nosotros y tú y nuestros niños. Yo te respondo por él, a mí me pedirás cuenta, si yo no te lo vuelvo a traer y si no lo pongo delante de ti, seré para ti el culpable para siempre, pues si no nos hubiéramos detenido, ciertamente hubiéramos ya vuelto 2 veces.
Notice the difference in Reuben's approach and that of Judah.
Note la diferencia en el enfoque de Rubén y el de Judá.
Reuben says, Kill my two sons if I don't bring Benjamin back.
Rubén dice, matad a mis 2 hijos y no hago regresar a Benjamín.
Judah says, I will be guilty forever if I don't bring him back.
Judá dice que seré culpable para siempre si no lo hago regresar.
Israel finally gives in and agrees to send Benjamin. He gives them some advice. Genesis 43, verses 11 through 14.
Israel finalmente cede y acepta enviar a Benjamín. Les da algunos consejos. Génesis capítulo 43, verso 11 al 14.
And their father Israel said unto them, If it must be so, now do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm, and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds, and take double money in your hands, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Peradventure it was an oversight. Take also your brother and arise, go again unto the man, and God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved.
Verso 11 al 14. Entonces Israel su padre le respondió, pues que así es, hacedlo, tomad de lo mejor de la tierra en vuestros sacos y llevad a aquel varón un presente, un poco de bálsamo, un poco de miel, aromas y mirra, nueces y almendras. Y tomad en vuestras manos doble cantidad de dinero, y llevad en vuestras manos el dinero vuelto en las bocas de vuestros costales. Quizás fue equivocación. Tomad también a vuestro hermano y levantaos y volved a aquel varón. Y el Dios omnipotente os dé misericordia delante de aquel varón, y os suelte al otro vuestro hermano y a este Benjamín. Y si he de ser privado de mis hijos, séalo.
They take Benjamin in return, verse 15.
Se llevan a Benjamín y regresan. Génesis capítulo 43, verso 15.
Men took that present, and they took double money in their hand, and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph.
Entonces tomaron aquellos varones el presente y tomaron en su mano doble cantidad de dinero y a Benjamín. Y se levantaron y descendieron a Egipto y se presentaron delante de José.
The remainder of the chapter, verses 16 through 34, we see the preparation for the meal Jacob has with them.
En el resto del capítulo 16, verso 34, vemos la preparación y la comida que Jacob tiene con ellos. Chapter 16, brother.
Verses 16 through 34.
Versículos 16 al 34.
Joseph tells his servants to bring them to his house and prepare the meal. They will dine with him. Genesis 43, verses 16 and 17.
José le dice a su criado que los lleve a su casa y prepare la comida. Cenarán con él. Génesis capítulo 43, versos 16 al 17.
And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, "Bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon." And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house.
Verso 16 al 17. Y vio José a Benjamín con ellos, y dijo al mayordomo de su casa: lleva a casa a esos hombres y degüella una res y prepárala, pues estos hombres comerán conmigo al mediodía. E hizo el hombre como José dijo, y llevó a los hombres a casa de José.
What must have been going through their minds?
Lo que debió haber estado pasando por sus mentes.
We see what was going through their minds. Verses 18 through 22.
Vemos lo que pasaba por sus mentes. Génesis capítulo 43, versos 18 al 22.
And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they said, "Because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time we brought in, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us and take us for bondmen and our donkeys." And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, "O sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass when we came to the inn that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hand." And verse 22, "And other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks."
Verso 18 al 22. Entonces aquellos hombres tuvieron temor cuando fueron llevados a casa de José y decían: por el dinero que fue devuelto en nuestros costales la primera vez nos han traído aquí, para tendernos lazo y atacarnos y tomarnos por siervos a nosotros y a nuestros asnos. Y se acercaron al mayordomo de la casa de José y le hablaron a la entrada de la casa. Y dijeron: ay, Señor nuestro, nosotros en realidad de verdad descendimos al principio a comprar alimentos. Y aconteció que cuando llegamos al mesón y abrimos nuestros costales, he aquí el dinero de cada uno estaba en la boca de su costal, nuestro dinero en su justo peso, y lo hemos vuelto a traer con nosotros. Hemos también traído en nuestras manos otro dinero para comprar alimento. Nosotros no sabemos quién haya puesto nuestro dinero en nuestros costales.
The servant reassures them and provides for their comfort. Note that he also reunites Simeon with them. Genesis chapter 43, verses 23 through 25.
El sirviente los tranquiliza y les proporciona consuelo. Tenga en cuenta que también reúne a Simeón con ellos. Génesis capítulo 43, verso 23 al 25.
And he said, Peace be to you. Fear not. Your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And he brought Simeon out unto them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their donkeys provender. And they made ready the present against Joseph, came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there.
Verso 23 al 25. Él le respondió, paz a vosotros, no temáis, vuestro Dios y el Dios de vuestro Padre os dio el tesoro en vuestros costales. Yo recibí vuestro dinero, y sacó a Simeón a ellos, y llevó aquel varón a los hombres a casa de José, y les dio agua, y lavaron sus pies, y dio de comer a sus asnos. Y ellos prepararon el presente, entre tanto que venía José a mediodía, porque habían oído que ahí habrían de comer pan.
Joseph comes home and starts asking them questions about their father. Genesis 43, verses 26 through 29.
José llega a casa y comienza a hacerles preguntas sobre su padre. Génesis capítulo 43, verso 26 al 29.
And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand, into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare, and said, Is your father well, the old man of whom ye spake? Is he yet alive? And they answered, Thy servant our father is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother, of whom ye spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son.
Verso 26 al 29. Y vino José a casa, y ellos le trajeron el presente que tenían en su mano dentro de la casa, y se inclinaron ante él hasta la tierra. Entonces les preguntó José cómo estaban, y dijo, vuestro padre, el anciano que dijiste, ¿lo pasa bien? ¿Vive todavía? Y ellos respondieron, bien, va tu siervo nuestro padre, aún vive, y se inclinaron e hicieron reverencia. Y alzando José sus ojos vio a Benjamín su hermano, hijo de su madre, y dijo, ¿es este vuestro hermano menor de quien me hablasteis? Y dijo, Dios tenga misericordia de ti, hijo mío.
We see them bow before Joseph again.
Los vemos inclinarse ante José nuevamente.
Notice he is overwhelmed when he sees Benjamin, Genesis 43, verses 30 and 31.
Observe que se siente abrumado cuando ve a Benjamín, Génesis capítulo 43, verso 30 al 31.
And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother. And he sought where to weep. And he entered into his chamber and wept there. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, Set on bread.
Verso 30 al 31. Entonces José se apresuró porque se conmovieron sus extrañas a causa de su hermano y buscó dónde llorar. Y entró en su cámara y lloró ahí. Y lavó su rostro y salió y se contuvo y dijo, poned pan.
He comes back and tells the servants to serve the food, verses 32 through 34.
Regresa y les dice a sus sirvientes que sirvan la comida. Génesis capítulo 43, verso 32 al 34.
And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves. and for the Egyptians which did eat with them by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled one at another, and he took and sent messes unto them from before him. But Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs, and they drank and were merry with him.
Verso 32 al 34. Y pusieron para él aparte y separadamente para ellos, y aparte para los egipcios que con él comían, porque los egipcios no pueden comer pan con los hebreos, lo cual es abominación a los egipcios. Y se sentaron delante de él el mayor conforme a su primogenitura, y el menor conforme a su menor edad, y estaban aquellos hombres atónitos mirándose el uno al otro. Y José tomó vianda delante de sí para ellos, mas la porción de Benjamín era 5 veces mayor que cualquiera de ellos, y bebieron y se alegraron con él.
They placed them in the order of their birth. This amazed them.
Los colocan en el orden de su nacimiento, esto los asombró.
He also gave Benjamin much more than the others.
También le dio a Benjamín mucho más que los demás.
One commentator said that this was a test to see if they were still jealous.
Un comentarista dijo que se trataba de una prueba para ver si todavía estaban celosos.
Let's consider some questions.
Consideremos algunas preguntas.
First, can we see a comparison to Christ in Judah taking upon himself the responsibility?
Primero, podemos ver una comparación con Cristo en Judá asumiendo la responsabilidad.
Any thoughts on that? Steve?
How about Judah willing to give himself?
Reuben was willing. Reuben said, "What? Kill my 2 sons if I don't bring him back." Which is that's no light thing. He cared for his sons. But Judah, what did he say? If I don't bring him back to you, I'm guilty. I bear the responsibility. Isn't that what Christ did for us? He bore our guilt, dying on the cross, paying what we can't pay. So would this be type, anti-type? Judah is, of course, or Jesus is, of course, a direct descendant of Judah. Or am I seeing something that's not there, do you think?
I don't think I've ever heard of Judah being, or Joseph,
Well, yeah.
not Judah. But I mean, it's possible, yeah.
I don't
He's
know.
had attitude with that,
Yeah.
willingness to
It's
give
like-
himself.
Of course, he's not the only one. We see Moses doing the same, interceding with for the people of Israel later on, obviously, but something to consider. We've already mentioned the idea that Joseph seems to be testing them throughout all of this. Is he? Is given Benjamin more a test, or simply his showing his closeness to Benjamin? Ya hemos mencionado la idea de que José parece estar probándolos a lo largo de todo esto. Es él, se le da a Benjamín más una prueba, o simplemente muestra su cercanía a Benjamín. He says it much better than I do. But Is that a test? The commentator was saying, well, this is a test checking to see if there's jealousy still there, but is it? Or is it just that feeling of this is my, they're all his brothers, but Benjamin was his full brother. They were half brothers.
I don't think as much testing as Joseph's eyes were open of the changes that they had made in their life. You know, they didn't care about Joseph, but now they're really concerned about Benjamin. You know,
but he's giving
he learned the first time that Reuben actually stood up for him and was going to save him. And so a lot of this opening his eyes as you go along too.
But giving Benjamin 5 times more than he gave the others.
Everybody's got their favorites.
I guess so.
I mean, that was his brother. That was his, you know, full brother.
Yeah.
That's not unusual even today.
I
Maybe
know.
not the 5 times, but still, if you have somebody at a meal and they're your favorite, you give them the best cuts. So
I know. I understand. I feel sorry for poor Benjamin. I know what it's like to be everybody's favorite, you know.
I know you have to sacrifice yourself.
I know. It's just so hard. Closely related, what is Joseph's motives and how he is behaving? Intricamente relacionado, ¿cuáles son los motivos de José para comportarse? I may have messed that one up, brother. Close enough? But what is his motives? ¿Cuáles son los motivos? Is it just Steve? If I'm not reading you wrong, you say, well, his eyes are open and he's happy. And all.
I can see him here with, of course, we're not at the cup yet, but
Yeah, he goes on to.
I see him just sort of, I don't know.
I don't know. You mentioned the cup, and all of this does seem to be kind of playing into that test of what will they do?
It's just him trying to pull one on them, you know, sort of not necessarily praying, but just trying to see how they would handle this, maybe, you know.
But isn't that a test, Steve?
I guess.
I don't know. I mean, anybody else have any thoughts about that?
Maybe gonna make him suffer a little bit, you know.
Well, and we've talked about that. Is he trying to get back at him and say, yeah, I'll show you? I mean, but he doesn't seem to have that in him to well, I'll punish them. On the contrary, he seems to get it. I mean, we go back to chapter 50 and verse 20, capítulo 50 y verse 20, and he's, at least at that point, he sees God did this and had motives to save people. So I don't know. I struggle to think Joseph is. I mean, I probably would. I'd be like, I'll show you guys. You sell me off into slavery. Look where I am now. But I don't know. I just don't see Joseph necessarily doing that. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? ¿Algún tiene alguna otra pregunta o comentario?
I do think this is one of my favorite, and I think one of the strongest, dramatic, you know, touching stories in all the Bible, you know. And just Joseph and his thought, his faithfulness, you know, and just reveal, you know.
Yeah, because again, think of it. Wouldn't you
Oh, it just
It
so much
makes,
emotion.
it seems like, again, like so many people, how many of us would? How many of us would be like, you sold me into slavery. You treated me terribly, you know, and here I've got you now. But he doesn't. Now,
If he's gonna have that attitude, then he's got to deny what he says later on, that God meant it for good.
yeah. No, obviously, I don't think he did have that attitude. I'm just saying, how many people would? How many people would be like, I'll show you? You know, a lot of people have that attitude of what? I'll get back at somebody. A lot of people have the attitude, I'll get them before they get me. You know, but, and how many, I mean, I don't know, how many would just, the first time they bowed down to him, would just jump and say, I told you. See, I told you so. You decide you get and solve the problem, but but you go back to Joseph and the whole situation that led up to that. You got Jacob, who's got his favorite. Joseph is his favorite. That causes difficulties. We've talked about sibling rivalry. But Joseph was a bit of a tattletale too, wasn't he? He was going and telling on his brothers, and nobody likes, how's the saying go? Nobody likes a snitch. He's now. I'm not saying he was right or wrong, but people don't like, so that created more animosity. So you have the favoritism, you have the way he's acting, but again, keep in mind throughout all of these actions, keep in mind chapter 50 and verse 20, what he said. God meant it to save lives. He saw that. So you see that maturity in him, that he saw all of this. And at what point he realizes that, I don't know. We're not told that God's telling him all along that I'm working through this, but he stays faithful all along. And he does, at least at some point, by chapter 50, he comes to the understanding that God's doing this to save others. And so he can see all of it. And does he see it all here? Has he already kind of figured out, God's done this to bring this about, to save these people's lives? I don't know. I don't know at what point he does. I know by 50 he does, but does he before that, Bill?
He seems like a wise man, so most likely he has figured it out.
Maybe.
Well, he did know before 50 though, because he does say there that God brought him there to save life. Now,
Yeah, but that was
when he
in.
first reveals himself to his brothers.
What? That's. Oh, there's that 45, I think. Well, you go ahead and be looking that up, Steve, and we're going to conclude the class. And for anybody that's watching over the internet, glad you're able to join. Do what?
45:7.
45:7. Read that.
And God sent me before you to preserve you of posterity in the earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance.
So he does know it by then, at least. So again, feeds back into the idea he's got it figured out. Whether God has revealed it to him or he just is light bulb. But we do appreciate anybody who's able to watch on the internet, listen.